Welcome to Let's Talk. 9 years. That's how long our next guest was imprisoned without a trial. Michael Fernandez, a trade union leader, was detained under the Internal Security Act from 1964 to 1973. He was then advocating for better working conditions for Singaporean women working as maids for the Europeans in Singapore. In his modest way, Mr. Fernandez says that he was just helping people who needed his help. The government has tried to wipe off from the pages of history the injustice that he has meted out to labour leaders like Mr. Fernandez. Today, we are very fortunate to hear straight from him what happened during those dark years under detention to get his side of the story. Welcome to Let's Talk, Michael.
Thank you.
Take us back to that fateful day in 1964 when the ISD came knocking on your door to arrest you. What happened during those moments when they took you away? What went through your mind? How did you feel?
My feeling at that time was just expectant. I was expecting the arrest because quite a lot of my friends, my colleagues in the Singapore Business House Employees Union, Tanjung Kui and others were already arrested.
In all, how many years were you actually detained?
I was detained from 1964 till 1973, almost 9 years.
That was the year I was born, 1973. 9 years. How did you survive all these years? Many people would have given up, and many did. Did you feel like giving up?
I would say yes and no. I would say yes because during the hunger strike in 1967, I was removed and put in the interrogation center alone, and they tried to force feed me, and I resisted. I thought of doing something to end my life because it was nearly unbearable physically. That's one thing. And no, I would say that I always had this simple thought in my mind. The government locked me up because I tried to help the workers. I don't think I committed a sin nor a crime. That kept me going.
The government has said that it does not ill-treat political detainees. But what we heard from you was that you all were ill-treated and you all were force-fed. So can you tell us more about your experience?
Okay, let me go back to this situation. I mentioned that 1967 we were put along with the prisoners, and we were kept in the Changi prison along with the prisoner for 3 years. Until December 1970, we were transferred to new blocks of prisons called Moon Crescent Center. Beautiful sounding, very romantic name. But there were several blocks. In each block there were a few detainees kept, 5, sometimes 3, and the conditions were worse than before. The food ration was reduced tremendously, and our family visits were cut to once a week, only 20 minutes. Formerly it was open visit. You could see, like talk to, for example, you are my father and I am a detainee, I could talk to you like this. No. After that, we could only talk to our families through telephone. There was a barrier, glass barrier. We couldn't touch, we couldn't see. Third point, we could not meet our legal advisor, Mr. T.T. Raja was our legal advisor, except when we filed a case in court. Only then we could meet him. So several issues like that. Mm-hmm. And we were locked up in the new prison for 16 hours a day. and conditions were bad. So we put up these grievances, took up these issues with the prison authorities and the ISD. They couldn't be bothered. So we prepared ourselves. It took a few months to prepare ourselves to go on a long hunger strike. We first 9 days we only drank water. After that, I think most of us collapsed. Then the prison authorities brought in the doctor and the nurses and the superintendent and tried to force feed us. And I refused to be force fed. I was handcuffed from behind, put on a chair, handcuffed from behind, and one warden used to stand on my handcuffed hands, and another used to sit on my lap and open my mouth with a jaw opener and shoved in about nearly 1 inch diameter tube and poured thin porridge into my stomach. And for me, it was a bad ordeal because the porridge didn't stay in my stomach. Either I vomited or purged. So as a result, I lost about 7 kilos. And because I was so thin and I couldn't walk, I was transferred to the prison hospital and put on drip, for 23 days. Later, when my condition was a bit better, they brought me back. But we continued with our hunger strike for 135 days until the government or the prison authorities agreed to negotiate on the living conditions, on some of the food item, our visits, and our legal advisor. These issues were discussed and some of them were resolved.
Now, Michael, when you were released finally in 1973, were there any conditions placed on your release?
Okay, I think we got to go back a bit on the situation then existing. Our long hunger strike 1971 attracted a lot of publicity locally and more internationally. Particularly, the hunger strike was during the Commonwealth Conference of Prime Ministers in Singapore. That gives a lot of coverage internationally, one. And also pressure from from outside. The families of detainees demonstrated in front of the prison, in front of the Ministry of Home Affairs. All these pressures added up to and also they failed to break us mentally and physically during the hunger strike. All these factors, I think, contribute to the government's decision to release detainees gradually, a few at a time. We were the first two to be released, myself and Wee Thun Lip, in 1973 April, without any conditions. And gradually later on, some other detainees were also released without any conditions until most of them were released on this basis.
And let me get that period clear again. You went on hunger strike for 135
days.
35 days. I am speechless when I hear something like that. Because of the immense interest in today's subject, we decided to do a 2-part interview with Mr. Fernandez. Please visit us again soon for the second half of this episode of Let's Talk. That's it from all of us at SDP for now. See you again.